Hello, I'm Wendy Otway, editor of FME, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this morning's webinar. Entitled Advanced Solutions for Fire Suppression Systems, this webinar is brought to you by the Fire Middle East magazine in partnership with TLX Technologies. For the past 19 years, TLX has been pioneering actuation solutions for fire suppression systems. Their actuators, solenoids, and valves are customized to each client's needs, meet regulatory standards, and are fast, durable, and reusable. With localized production in both the United States and China, TLX designs and manufactures high-quality components for the worldwide fire suppression market. Today, Patrick Schwobe and Jason Busalacchi will be discussing pertinent industry topics and examining TLX Technologies' latest products, including a supervised latching actuator for hazardous locations, a liquid level sensor, a supervised pilot operated valve, and a high pressured supervised latching actuator. Before today's presentation begins, I would ask you to take in the house rules. It is now my pleasure to hand you over to Jason Busalacchi. Good morning, Jason.
Thank you, Wendy. Good morning and welcome everybody. We're certainly delighted to have you here with us today. Again, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jason Busalacchi. I am the Business Development Manager at TLX Technologies for the Fire Protection Division. I've been with the company for about 6 years, and we're here to talk to you today about our core technologies in fire suppression, as well as the advanced solutions that we've been developing over the past couple of years. As it was mentioned, TLX has been providing actuating solutions for the fire suppression industry for about 19 years now. And in fact, our first fire suppression customer is actually still with us today. We do work directly with the system manufacturers worldwide to engineer actuation components as well as active feedback devices for their systems to meet regulatory requirements. Our engineering and R&D is centralized in the United States, as well as localized production in the US and in China, depending upon where we are going to associate with our customers, as well as both of our facilities for our products being ISO certified and UL recognized for the highest quality. So as we're going through this, we're going to show you some of the devices that have been, again, the core technologies that we've developed, some of the advanced solutions that we're going to be coming up with now and into the future, as well as some of the key features that serve this market. So we can move on to the next slide. And so again, some of the current and future market trends, we are seeing a lot more of interconnectivity within the market. A lot of the post-COVID world is dictating that there's going to be a lot more off-site interactions with these fire suppression systems. And so TLX has taken it upon ourselves to develop technologies so that our customers can monitor the systems that they're installing from anywhere in the world to ensure that they are providing the best quality and care for the plant, property, and equipment that they are protecting.
Hey, hi, I'm Patrick Schwobe. I'd like to welcome everyone here. I'm principal engineer here at TLX Technologies, working in the advanced product development group. Been working here for 6 years, primarily on some of the products that we're going to be looking at today and some of the new ones that we're looking to launch. As Jason mentioned, obviously the world has changed over the past year with the onset of the whole COVID-19 pandemic. There's been a huge push for, social distancing and working from home, and really people and businesses alike have had to adapt. And the fire suppression market has really been no different. I mean, a prime example here is us doing this webinar right now, as opposed to showcasing these products at the annual Intersect show in Dubai, which I think would have been going on right now. But even before the pandemic hit, the increased interest in the Internet of Things, we were seeing a push towards that data collection and remote connectivity, specifically in the fire protection market. And this push is just really, it's been accelerated over the past year. I guess, if you think about it, it's pretty hard to find an industry at this point in time that's not looking to become, I'm going to say, more connected. We're really to the point where you can adjust the temperature in your house. You can unlock doors with the, use of your smartphone. With the push of a button, you can probably start your car from anywhere in the world. So, I mean, it's really no surprise that when it comes to safety critical systems, such as fire suppression systems, the customers are looking to be more connected. Even though TLX doesn't supply or manufacture complete fire suppression systems, we work pretty close with our customers, and we're well aware that they're looking for the products that really allow for valuable data to be collected, and that data can be used to determine the overall health of the system at any given point in time. And really knowing the status or health of your fire suppression system, real time, can give the owner peace of mind that it's ready to work properly, or the system can give a notification that it needs to be serviced to make sure that it continues to be ready in the future. This really is an advantage when it comes to, system inspections and maintenance checks. Most of the fire systems do require a semi-annual inspection to verify proper electrical actuator function, as well as proper levels in the suppressant tanks. I mean, at least at a minimum. So with the ability for smart devices to send that data to the fire control panel, the system manufacturer can provide that data real time to the customer, via a web interface or some sort of, human interface. Some of the more recent efforts or advancements in the fire protection safety, have extended beyond typical applications of, either commercial or industrial sites, and even into, they've been moving into transportation and the automotive markets. Recent inquiries that we have seen for systems, being installed onto buses, subways, even electric vehicles, all have system manufacturers looking for smarter devices. So, really what's driving the requirement for those smarter devices? I guess one specific example that we've had here in the United States has been due to several recent fires on rock trucks at mining work sites, with, one of those fires specifically being fatal. When I'm talking about the rock trucks, it's the big Caterpillar, those with like 8-foot tall tires kind of thing. So the Mine Safety and Health Administration has since stepped in and kind of pushed a suppression system initiative, which includes making inspection of these systems, a priority. I guess in the fatal case of the rock truck operator, it was determined that the manually activated fire suppression system didn't function when the driver attempted to activate it. Would a proper system inspection have made, that system, would it have worked when it needed to? Maybe, maybe not. But I guess what I do know is, with the addition of smarter devices to fire protection system, specifically that one, the operator would have been made aware of potential issues with the system before the fire actually occurred. And, if you think of that, now, if you pair these smarter devices with the advancements that, we've seen in fire detection sensors, really it's only a matter of time before these systems are, on vehicles and just fully automatic. I can see it even going as far as, the systems being applied into electric vehicles and their battery systems. A system could be designed to monitor individual battery cells. And if, a battery cell were to get hot, start on fire, it could put that local fire out and basically preserve all the good functioning cells of that battery pack. As mentioned before, I guess even though as TLX doesn't manufacture entire fire suppression systems, we do strive to produce the most advanced actuating devices and accessories, really to give our customers that system advantage in the market. I guess what we'd like to do now is, show you and explain some of the devices that we currently have available, and a couple that are in development, and we're looking to get into the market.
All right, thanks, Patrick. So at the very core of TLX's fire suppression division has been our actuating solutions. We have been, as mentioned, we have been engineering and manufacturing actuation solutions for fire suppression systems on gaseous fire suppression systems for, close to the last 2 decades. And what you see in front of you here on the left-hand side is our linear actuator family. We have a number of different sizes of this actuator to accommodate a number of different systems across all fire suppression gas platforms, from 25 bar actuators to 80 bar actuators to 300 bar actuators. Each one of those devices is compliant to NFPA 2001, as well as recognized to UL 864, as well as customer tested to UL 2166, 2127, and FM 5600, as well as European tested with some of our customers to BDS, CE, and LPCB. The reason that we got into and the reason that our product is recognized is because what we tried to do to advance the systems a number of years ago, as we follow the NFPA 2001 or UL 864 guidelines, it came to our attention that there was a number of incidences in which, when these devices are removed from the system, there is an opportunity for the maintenance or installation personnel to have either not replace the actuator fully or not actually replace the actuator at all. Well, considering that that is the device that actuates the system once there's a signal from the control panel, if this particular product or these actuators are not securely fastened back onto the system, it renders the system useless. So NFPA 2001 committee stated that they needed to do something about that. And what eventually happened is that they came up with a code in which if you all follow that same NFPA code, that anytime one of these devices on gaseous fire suppression systems has been removed, there needs to be an audible or visual signal at the control panel alarming that personnel that that device has been removed. And basically what this does is essentially gives the personnel some sort of indication that the system is not triggered appropriately, and that they need to make sure that these systems or these actuators are replaced back onto the system. As we've gone on through the years, and gas fire suppression systems have really led the way with the installation supervision code under NFPA 2001, that is transferred over into NFPA 13 for pre-action and deluge systems and sprinkler systems. So as of January 1st, 2021, or 2020 rather, I'm sorry, NFPA 13 also adopted the installation supervision requirement that anytime one of these solenoid valve coils on pilot operated solenoid valves is removed, that same audible or visual signal needs to come from the control panel to let that personnel know that that device needs to be replaced appropriately. And in doing so, we've developed a technology to place into the solenoid valves, just like we did with the latching actuators or linear actuators. And this product will be tested to UL 429 and UL 429A for solenoid valves in fire suppression systems. So as we move on to the next slide, I'm just going to give you a couple of the features that make these actuators unique. Outside of the integrated supervision switch. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the installation and maintenance replacement. So as you'll watch, the solenoid is removed from the discharge valve and replaced. And if we play that again, and you look at the control panel, you'll notice the visual signal. Now, this is the little red signal that's turning on and off. That's the visual signal. There could also be some sort of tone that comes from that control panel, alarming that personnel that that device has been removed. So moving over to the second slide, the integrated supervision switch, you're probably wondering, well, how does that happen? So if you notice around the firing pin, there's a slotted circular component. And basically what we do is there's a normally closed switch in there. And when the solenoid actuator has been placed back onto the discharge valve appropriately, the boss on the top, the threaded boss on the top of the system, depresses that switch, or compresses that switch, I should say, which allows that signal to open up and then turns the visual signal off at the control panel. And then lastly, one of the real key unique features here is that, obviously it being resettable, so it can be used over and over again. I know that there's some actuation solutions out there that, there's explosion devices, if you will, they consider them squibs, that, they're a one-time use. So for ours, you can attach a manual override actuator to it, and then reset it as needed, whether it's electrically fired or if it's manually fired. So moving on from there, there's another couple of key features that we have for these devices that we can show you. And I'll let Patrick explain the pin state monitoring device that we can use for these actuators as well.
All right. Yeah. I guess the pin state monitoring device is, it's really complementary to the integrated installation supervision. In regards, Jason had mentioned, say during maintenance, the actuator is removed from the discharge valve. The installation, allows that signal to happen to say, hey, this actuator did not get put back in place. What the pin state monitoring does, it allows us to know what state the pin is in. If it's either in the latch state, which would be, you could put it on the discharge valve, or if it's in the fired state, which is where the pin is delatched or extended out of the body. What we're really trying to avoid here, and what we're, trying to do with this is really give the maintenance, the installation, the technicians, the ability to know that device is, I guess, staged and prepped, ready to be installed onto the discharge valve. I think there have been cases where the linear actuator is removed from the discharge valve during periodic maintenance. It's tested, fired, and then the technician went to put it back onto the discharge valve, which, potentially causes a accidental discharge of that system based on the pin being extended and actually coming in contact with the Schrader valve. The one unique thing about this is, we looked at that family of linear actuators. This technology can be applied to any of those devices. So I think if there's a little video here, we can just show, and I mean, other than we can see the pin being fired and that LED changes red, which, notifies the technician that, hey, this unit needs to be reset prior to being installed back onto the discharge valve. So, I mean, I think, like I said, it's very complimentary. We're kind of just making sure that, we don't have issues with install and accidental discharge of systems, because no one wants to pay for the cleanup and no one wants to have to deal with the mess that's happened, that comes from that. I guess if we want to move on to supervise here, Jason, I'll let you take this.
Sure. So one of the inquiries that we've had for a number of years, regardless if it comes directly from a customer or somebody that works in the field, an engineer, maintenance personnel, so on and so forth, was the request for a supervised latching actuator for hazardous locations. This is something that we've thought about for a very long time, and TLX is now engaging with UL to provide a design that is going to be able to accommodate both, or in essence, all of HAZLOC 1203, US and Canada, ATEX and IECEX. This design is for almost all gas groups and categories. It's designed for clean agent and inert systems for hazardous locations. It's rugged and robust. And again, it also incorporates the integrated supervision to meet NFPA 2001 standards. And one of the beauties about this particular product is that we can actually use this device as a top-mounted actuator for any top-mounted system that might be out on the market. So when I talk about actuators that we have, that's 25 bar and 80 bar and 300 bar, this particular actuator is uniquely designed in that we can reconfigure the internals to provide the appropriate amount of force on your system so that it, there's not too much pressure being or too much force being outputted. In that if you have a 25 bar system and you have a 300 bar actuator and it's providing 110 pounds of force on a 13 pound required force Schrader core, that you aren't going to break the Schrader core once it's engaged. So, and then furthermore, something that I failed to talk about earlier that I'll talk about now is our abilities to take any of these actuators, including this one, and modify the interface, both pin stick out, stroke, the thread depth, and the thread itself, to match the interface of the discharge valve. And what that allows us to do is basically accommodate our customer system so the customer doesn't have to go through the changing of a discharge valve themselves to accommodate our product. We're able to manipulate that to work for you. So some of the unique features of this design are that when currently in the market, and you'll see on the next slide, in the marketplace, a lot of what you see for explosion proof or hazardous location devices is that there's a solenoid valve that's used a lot of times with pressure lines, and it's the solenoid valve is constantly under pressure, and you get maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 leak points in the process of that actuation method. And so not only do you have a number of leak points that you have to worry about, and whether or not your container is going to start losing pressure, start losing agent, so on and so forth, you also may have to worry about putting an enclosure around the system to keep any of that material, gas material that might have propagated into the device, to keep it from once there is an electrical signal sent to the system, that it keeps that explosion, if you will, contained within the system. So when you look at the device that we have, how it mounts to the top of the discharge valve itself, we eliminate the need for all of these leak points and that enclosure in and of itself by just allowing our customers to have one product that they can set directly onto the top of their system. And electronically, this is now considered a hazardous location system because of the design, without, again, the need for a lot of leak points as well as an enclosure. So that's some of this particular product. We have gone through the UL process for the ordinary location. We are in process with UL currently to complete the hazardous location testing. And we believe that probably by about March of this year, we'll have completed that testing and ready to commercialize for the fire suppression market for any number of gas industries that you may come across. So if we want to move on to the next slide, I'm going to let Patrick talk about another feature that we have on our supervised actuators that we've been developing for the last couple of years, and we've had a lot of inquiries for it. And I believe that pretty soon here, this is going to be a very sought after technology because of what it offers.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I guess what we're looking at here is the event recorder. It's, if you look at it, we typically call it the nickname's a black box. You can see it on the side of the unit, but really what it does is, we have the ability to monitor temperature, shock, current, voltage, and also the position modes that we mentioned earlier with regards to the installation supervision and the pin state position. On the electronics of the board itself, we have a 3-axis accelerometer that can detect impact loads in, I guess, those 3 axes. And so between monitoring the voltage and current inputs and those shock loads, we can determine when the device is fired if it was mechanically actuated, electrically actuated, and it will create this event log. And the events that are recorded, we can set specific parameters. So, I mean, if we're looking at, if the current goes above 200 milliamps, that's an event. Like, we can set those parameters to whatever the customer, wants for the device and create that log. When we actually create that log, we have that data. That data can be either stored locally on the device, either, a mini USB to pull it off and review the log data. Or we also have the ability to send that data remotely through either, Wi-Fi connection or some sort of wireless protocol. The way we view it, it's a good tool for, I guess, risk mitigation. As I mentioned earlier, the ability to know that if the device was installed properly and, hey, we didn't measure any, voltage or current, but all we saw was a large impact load. Well, then we know that there was something dropped on it. If there's a misfire, it paints that picture. This device itself is a passive device. So you can't fire the device wirelessly. You can't fire the device remotely. It's still only fired by the electrical signal from the panel. So I guess the component, like, it's monitoring the system. This device can be, I guess, integrated into, again, the family of linear actuators. So anywhere from the 25, 80 bar, 300 bar actuator, this device could fit on there. And, like I said, it's really a risk mitigation tool that we're, looking to work to get out into the market as it does. We see that it provides value to our customers. I don't think there's a video or anything here. I could probably move on to the next slide here. So what we're looking at is the liquid level sensor. So this is one of the products that we're currently working on, specifically designed for the clean agent systems. So Novec 1230, FM 200. And what this actually does is it really, I guess, eliminates the need and variability for human interpretation of reading the actual level. So the tank itself does not have to be weighed. There's current products out there, dip tape type measurements, where there's, I guess, the human aspect of pulling the dip tape out of the device, and there's a little bit of a feel to see how it engages with the magnets and the float inside. What this device does is it takes that out of play. So we're using a high resolution sensor capable of plus or minus 1 millimeter, and using that data to basically output a weight or a distance, percent fill. Like, it could be multiple different things. This device also has the ability to provide feedback on site or communicate remotely through some sort of wireless protocol. The device itself can be thermally compensated. So we have a thermocouple that's inside the electronics, and with, if we work with a customer on a specific tank and clean agent, we can basically create a calibration table that, when the sensor is reading a specific distance at a specific temperature, it knows the weight. So the thermal compensation has been something that, customers have asked about. I know there's been cases where, if tanks are filled at, say, 70C or 70F, and a technician measures the same tank when it's 20 or 30 degrees colder, it'll say that there's, the level can be low. And there's usually some issues with interpreting the calibration or the lookup tables. So this was just a way to take that human element out of the equation. The other thing we can do with this device is basically customize it to any tank. So, I mean, as long as the tank has a threaded port on it, we can accommodate the different port sizes, the different lengths. Currently, what we've been measuring in the lab, we have systems that are measuring 4 feet plus to that plus or minus 1 resolution. So, you know, again, it's a way to collect data, feed it into the control panel to the web interface, and know this, you know, we got real-time data, and we don't have to wait for, you know, service intervals to identify an issue with a leaking tank. So this device also basically, it can be a direct replacement for some of the devices out there right now, like I mentioned, with a specific threaded port and length. We can basically be a drop in there. I think there's maybe a video that comes along with this just to help explain what we're talking about here. So obviously you can see the liquid level sensor in the tank. And in this scenario, we're reading percent fill. But as that level drops, you can see the fill percent drop. Like I mentioned, that output on that screen could be a specific weight based on a calibration table. It could also be a specific distance if that's what the customer is requiring. So I think that covers right now the specific slides and products that we're going to go over. I think we're looking if we're going to field some questions here on some of these devices.
Thank you, Patrick and Jason. I certainly find your presentations very informative. And it is evident that TLX not only recognises, but is also responding to the need for reliable, robust products that can either be monitored remotely or remotely monitor equipment status, which is becoming ever more critical when providing customers with the security that their suppression systems will deploy while keeping personnel and assets safe. We will now have a Q&A session for 10 to 15 minutes. Please submit your questions by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. I know we have received a couple, but in the first instance, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. Where are your manufacturing locations?
So both of we have 2 manufacturing locations at this current time. One is in the Midwest in the United States, so Pewaukee, Wisconsin. We're about 2 hours northwest of Chicago, and that's also where our engineering is centrally located, because that's our headquarters. And then our other manufacturing facility is in Changshu, China, so about 2 hours outside of Shanghai.
Okay, and you haven't had any problem with COVID and supply?
I mean, we've had some. There's been, certainly some. I don't know if we want to call it issues, but there has been some delay just because of trying to get parts moved, from one location to another, whether it's from suppliers to us and then ultimately that ends up coming down to the end customer as well. But I mean, as far as being able to get product to customers, I mean, we typically tend to ensure that we're giving our customers the proper amount of lead times, so that, and then we also keep our some particular inventories on the shelf for our customers, so in case they need something, we're able to respond in a reasonable manner.
Good. And who are your customers? Who do you sell to?
So we mainly, I mean, I shouldn't even say mainly. We almost exclusively sell to the system OEMs internationally. And the reason being is because their systems are tested with the agencies such as UL, LPCB, BDS, CE. Our products are tested with their systems at the system level and then qualified to be able to sell to the market. So if we get maybe a distributor or an installer that's looking for a replacement component, for us, we would typically direct them to go to the OEM, and then the OEM would direct them to maybe one of their distributorships, depending upon the region that they're located in.
Okay. Do you offer the valves and the cylinders that your actuators are used on?
No, we at this point, we only engineer and manufacture actuation solutions as well as accessories to the system. So like you've seen, things like the actuators, the liquid level sensors, because as far as the systems are concerned, we're right now focused on the electrical side of things. So like I said, actuators and accessories, where the tanks, the discharge valves, a lot of specifically the discharge valves are a lot of times a proprietary design to the customers that we sell to.
Okay, I understand. And how, if I was looking to get a component tested, how would I go about that, a component tested for a system?
What was that? I'm sorry again.
How would I go about getting a component for system testing?
Well, what our customers typically do is they request from us, prototype parts, and I call them prototypes because a lot of different discharge valve systems are different. And that's what I was mentioning for the actuators and our ability to manipulate the interface. So, we have, and in the 25 bar actuator, we have somewhat about 40 different iterations of the same part. It electrically and mechanically functions the same, but there may be a different pin stick out there, maybe a different thread. All of those things are crucial to ensuring the proper functionality of our part with the system. Right. So customers who come to us, they would request those particular parts for their internal validation, and assuming that they want to use us as their supplier, they would then request that they may need a few more parts to take to the agencies. The agencies tested with their system, and then they would go on to sell into their markets.
Right. So basically, you're able to be constantly flexible and customizing down to the finest detail for each of your customers.
Correct.
Interesting. I'm not sure that you're going to be able to answer this, but I think you'll be able to point them in the right direction. What kind of fire protection or suppression system is best for warehouses with racks, and what is the design procedure?
Well, that typically lies solely on our customers, the OEMs. Yeah. They have flow calculation technologies, for engineered systems. Or pre-engineered systems that they can understand, the footprint of the tanks, the type of agents they're going to use in those particular environments. And then our customers also, like I said, engineer systems because there may be a specific design, or they may have a number of specific rooms that they're trying to cover. And so they work with the building owner or whoever the owner of that equipment is to create those systems to meet their standard of protection.
Right. Thank you for that. Now, I see we've got several questions coming live. Are the parameters set up for customers remotely, or how can the parameters be changed re the event recorder? So we're getting technical here.
So I think what's being asked there, I mean, we have the ability to basically, flash the event recorder to whatever parameters that specific customer wants, but there also would be an option, to basically go back into that device. It could be set up that way if the need is there for a specific parameter to be modified or changed. So I mean, that's something that could be customized on the event recorder and the software itself.
Okay. And why doesn't NFPA 12 force monitoring device for electrical actuator as noted in NFPA 2001? This is being asked by Ali Shakanibnia.
I guess that's a good question. I mean, when we talk about force monitoring, right? Our I don't know if that's being asked, monitoring the force that's being exhibited from our device, and I guess I'll take the leap to say that that's maybe what's being asked. So our devices themselves are engineered and then tested with the agencies, right, under a specific force parameter that we're putting on our print. And we have a minimum force output at the end of the travel of the firing pin that we can continuously and reliably ensure that we're coming up with the same force on our device. For us, we need to know what our customers are requesting as far as force output from our device to open the discharge valves of their systems, and then we offer a product that's going to suit that appropriately. So for us, like I said, we're going to be able to reliably create a device that's going to put the force outputs that's going to be requested. But I mean, other than that, I'm not sure that there's a necessity for us to monitor, the load that's coming out at the end of that firing pin.
Yeah, I guess just to add on what Jason said there, I mean, all the linear actuators that TLX produces go through a 100% production proof test, and load is one of those parameters that we monitor. Every device is checked to make sure that it meets a minimum force requirement. Along with that, the pin stickouts for both latched and delatched are verified on every unit. We do a low voltage test, so we make sure that every unit is capable of firing at 15.6 volts when it's nominally 24. We do a manual, override force measurement. For us, that's a UL requirement. So, I mean, really with us working so closely with UL and the technical data that we've, put on our prints with UL kind of requires us to do that. But, it's our way of validating that every part that we ship out of our facility is tested and it's going to work, every time. So.
And
reassuring.
And one more thing, as we were sitting here, I just really quickly looked up the NFPA 12 code. So that's a code that's dictated on carbon dioxide systems. And so our particular components, while they're compliant to certain NFPA codes, and that's why we added the supervision device within our components, so it helps our customers comply to NFPA 2001. There is no actual requirement of us to do that outside of what actually is requested by UL. So our devices comply at the component level to UL 864.
Right. Okay. I have also got another question that's come in. Are you going to be attending Intersect Saudi?
Well, we haven't. We haven't. I don't know if we've given that. I don't know how much thought we've given that. I mean, for the past 4 years, with the exception of now because Intersect got postponed, we have been going to the Intersect show since 2016. So we've been there, for about the past 4 or 5 years at this point. And it's really been a really great avenue for us to unveil a lot of these technologies to the world market. And certainly looking into Intersect Saudi Arabia wouldn't be a bad idea. Not entirely sure when in the year it is, but it could be something that we could certainly look into.
Okay. Ali has come back. He was our delegate who asked about NFPA 12. He comments, he's asking why there is a difference between NFPA 12 and 2001 about considering monitoring of electrical actuators. In FPA 12, it is not mandatory, but in FPA 2001, it is.
You know, that's a really good question. I think it goes in the same way that NFPA 13 adopted the policy or the code, the standard, whatever you would like to call it, from NFPA 2001. In that, typically when those codes get adopted, somebody's going to go to the NFPA open meeting and put a motion in to adopt a certain type of code, and then it gets voted on 2 or 3 times over, usually over about a year to year and a half time frame. So somebody at one point in time, about 10 years ago, put in a comment into NFPA 2001 to get the supervision requirement in there. And then I was actually part of the NFPA 13 process when because I was requested to come down with the person that put into the public commentary that NFPA 13 for water systems adopt that which is on NFPA 2001 for gas clean agent systems rather. So NFPA, so the only reason that NFPA 12 may not have it yet is somebody hasn't put in the comment yet and it hasn't been voted on, or somebody might have and it's still maybe going through the process at some point. And it might be sometime in the future.
Okay, Ali, I hope that answers your queries, but do ask more if you want to. Natafin Sharab is asking, are there any TLX distributors located in Sharjah?
So I couldn't actually tell you if there was any TLX distributors in Sharjah, only because TLX doesn't provide our actuators to the distributors. So the OEMs come to us, purchase a number, a yearly amount in which that we ship to them throughout the year, and then through their distribution networks. So let's say you have a major company that's in the UK that distributes their products all around the world. They may take 10,000 of something from us throughout the year, but they're not necessarily keeping all those parts at their facility there in the UK. They may be sending those parts down to one of their distributors under their name in, we'll say Sharjah or, Dubai or Abu Dhabi or wherever that might be, Saudi Arabia. So we don't have a distributorship there. However, our customers that use our products may.
Yeah, fair enough. Ali, thanks to you for your complete explanation of the NFPA situation. So that's great. I don't know whether anybody else would like to offer us any more questions, and whether Patrick or Jason, do you have anything else you'd like to add this morning? No? Okay, well,
no,
I think you covered it.
My head. I mean, I guess, outside of the technical stuff, I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody this morning and giving us an opportunity to show these technologies that we're developing and coming out with into the market. Because of COVID and everything that we've dealt with for the last year, a lot of these technologies that we were really hoping to unveil this year as a means to go into the Intersec in Dubai, the Interschutz in Germany, all of that has been now postponed a year at this point in time. So this is the best way for us to be able to, get people to take a look at what we have to offer, and then hopefully at some point in time contact us, with further inquiries and to get in more detail and depth on what it is they may need.
Indeed. Well, thank you. As there are no more questions, I think we can thank you both very much for your extremely comprehensive and very understandable. I'm not a technical person, but I could understand where you were coming from, and I'm sure our delegates did too. And thank you very much for all of our participants for listening. We will reach out to you in due course to see if you have any more questions, which we can pass on to TLX. Of course, you could meanwhile visit the TLX website and the FME website, which is a comprehensive source of information, and the current issue is there as well. Also, it'll be a billboard for our next webinar. But meanwhile, thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Goodbye from TLX and for all of us. Stay safe and well.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.